Hello, today we are going to talk about trigonometry. Trigonometry is a wide topic and it involves a lot of measurements. Today we are only going to deal with sine, cosine and tangents of an angle. We shall also deal with angles in the four quadrants, and we shall also look at the relationship between cos, tan and sine of an angle. We shall also look at the relationship between sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, what are the rationale of this particular topic? Why are we doing this topic? In most cases, if you check so many examination questions, so many questions are coming from this particular area. So that the students have to be aware that this is a rich area in examination. Second, this is an area that we can conclusively say that it is applied in so many areas in our lives. So we can say that by learning trigonometry, then we are opening our lives to so many areas of interest. Look at the first one here, application of trigonometry in satellite. Look at the angles of the rays that are being thrown from the Earth to where the satellite is. The signals, the way they are received on Earth up to where the satellite is in the sky. It is purely trigonometry. Look at the inclination of the roofs. It is purely trigonometry. We have ratios, we have angles, and we have other measurements. In the real sense, trigonometry here means we are trying to talk about angles in a triangle and the measurements. We shall talk about it later. Look at in video games. Look at the angles of projection. The path, that is purely trigonometry. It is a real life thing. In navigation, look at the angles of depression. Look at the angle of elevation, which is the same as the angle of depression. It is purely trigonometry. So trigonometry is very rich and it is applied in so many areas. Finally, look at how to get the shortest distance. Networking. You can see it is purely trigonometry. Look at these various triangles that are used to locate the shortest route possible for you to reach the destination. We are talking about trigonometry. So in this trigonometry, we are going to look at what is this really trigonometry. Trig here means the triangle and metry means measurement. So we are talking about the measurement in a triangle. So trigonometry then means the measurement in a triangle. And in all those situations that we have seen above, all of them, we are talking about triangles, angles in a triangle. We are talking about measurement of various sides of a triangle. So we shall concentrate here with SOHCAHTOA. Now, SOHCAHTOA here means SOH means sine, which is equals to the opposite over hypotenuse. We are going to look at them using a triangle. Cos of theta, that is K, means adjacent over hypotenuse. And then finally we have the tan of theta is equals to opposite over adjacent. Now remember that we are talking about a right-angled triangle. So don't forget that. We are talking about a right-angled triangle. So let's see, given a situation of this kind that if you've been given a triangle and then you've been given an angle theta, then from the angle theta, that side becomes your opposite side. And the line that moves to the angle to join with the hypotenuse, it is called the adjacent side. And the longest side is called the hypotenuse. So combining all that with a right angled triangle, then you can see that how you can get the sine of theta. So that angle theta must be an acute angle. The angle theta is equals to the opposite side of hypotenuse. So sine theta, cos theta, and tan theta means a ratio of sides. Means a ratio of sides. Okay? When we talk about sine of theta means the fraction of the opposite of hypotenuse gives you that particular ratio. That ratio is the sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle. Therefore, all these ones can be used for us to calculate so many problems in a triangle. So the tan of theta, as we have said, means the ratio. So the ratio opposite of adjacent means the ratio of the tan theta. So with that awareness, then it becomes easier for us to go and discover more. Now, in the unit circle, we have 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for us to get positive angles, we move in anti-clockwise direction. So quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to deal with them one by one. So in the first quadrant, it moves from 0 to 90. So we are going to play around with the angle theta for us to see how the sine, cosine, and tan behaves in the first quadrant. So in the first quadrant, as you can see, from 0 to 90, the opposite side of 25 is 0.4226, and the hypotenuse is 1. As you can see, it's 1 unit. And the cosine is the same thing. So, which means that in the first quadrant, sine, cosine, and tangent are all positive. Because if you look at all the values of opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse are all positive. So in the first quadrant from 0 to 90, sine, cosine, and tangent are all positive. So bear in mind that. So I made this particular dynamic tool here with some arrows, as you can see there, to help us locate the values. You can locate the values directly from this particular figure here. As you can see, that one is 0.5, okay, which also is very accurate with the figure that we are having there. Now, sine 60 there, you can see it is 0.5. Sine 60 is 0.866, which can also be obtained from the figure there. And also, as you can see, you can locate it, as I've said, from the figure there. Also, we are also going to find out that the opposite side and the adjacent side relates, which I want you to discover, relates to the sine and the cosine of the angle that we have at the center. Okay, so let's see as we move forward now to the second quadrant. Now, when we move to the second quadrant here, let's see how these angles play about. So we have an angle of 150. In the second quadrant here, the sine is positive. Why is it positive? You can see that the opposite side from that particular acute angle, an equivalent angle of 150, the remaining angle there is 30 to make it 180. So the equivalent is 30. So 30, which means the opposite is 0.5 over the hypotenuse, which is 1, which gives you a positive 0.5. So in the second quadrant, sine is positive. But when you go to the cosine, when you look at the adjacent of the cosine side, it is negative. You can see negative 0.866 over 1, which is our radius, or which is our hypotenuse, which gives you a negative ratio. So in the second quadrant, cosine is negative. What about tangent? In the second quadrant, tan opposite is 0.5, adjacent is negative 0.866, which means in the second quadrant, tan is also negative. So it's only sine that is positive in the second quadrant. Now, if we move to the third quadrant here, we can see that from the angle theta there, from that angle theta, opposite there is negative because we are moving downwards. And the adjacent side there is also negative, which gives you 0.7, around 0.766. So which now means that sine becomes negative because the opposite side is negative. Cosine becomes negative because the adjacent is negative. But the tan becomes positive because adjacent and the opposite is positive. So in the third quadrant, only the tangent is positive. Only the tangent is positive. So you have to take care of that. We are just using a right-angled triangle. Make sure that you take that. We are just using the right-angled triangle. So now, we are also going to look at various relationships from this unit circle. If you look at the opposite value there, you are getting a value of 0, around 0.6. You know, the down part there is 0.57, around 0.6. And the upper part is around 0.81 or something up there. So when we have, now let us concentrate with sine of 75. You get 0.959. When you get the sine of cos of 75, you get 0.2588. Now, look at the value of the opposite side is equivalent to the sine value of 75. Look at the adjacent side, that value of 0.2588 is the same as the cos of 75. I don't know whether you have discovered that. Then which means the opposite side is the sine of that angle, and the adjacent side is the cosine of that particular angle. Which now means for you to get the tangent, it is the opposite over adjacent. And the opposite we have said is sine. Adjacent we have said it is cosine, which gives you now the tangent. So which means sine over cosine gives you the tangent. Now, when we come to the final part here, when we want to discover the cosine part, in the final quadrant here, we are seeing that the opposite side is positive and the adjacent side is positive, so cosine becomes positive. Finally, when we look at this example here, you have been given a right-angled triangle that is 30, hypotenuse is 10, and opposite is x. So you can get x by use of sine. Sine 30 is equals to x over 10, x is equals to 5 centimeters. You can see that. Thank you.